Welcome to the January 20th OpenJ9 community call. Just a request that if you join the call that you add your name and affiliation to the list of people who've been attending so we know who's been joining the calls. And then again, we don't have a lightning talk scheduled for this, so it's something, if you do have a topic you'd like to talk about, reach out to me on Slack or to put a suggestion in here. I know there is a lot of interesting work and different things that could be added to this. So if you do have a lightning talk, feel free to jump in and we'll get that scheduled. Take a look at the user raised issues, see which ones have come in the past week or so, and if anything needs some extra attention. I'm seeing a couple that seem to have been raised through fuzzing, calling out differences between OpenJ9 and OpenJDK around verify errors. Just going to check and make sure that these have all starting to get some attention.
They have.
Okay. Thank you. Right. It looks like everything that's come in the last week or so has some comments attached to it. So there has been some discussion happening there. Is there any item in this list or in the sort of slightly more recent ones that need some extra attention? Anything in this list that people want to discuss on the call? Okay, if there is something, feel free to call it out on Slack or call it out during the meeting and we can circle back as well. Let's take a look at the download trends. Again, looks like the trends are on an upward spike. So if we look at just the OpenJ9 trends, we see continued growth on downloads, which is good, and likely even further growth expected in the next week or so around the new release of the 0.24 release. So we'll have to keep tracking that to see that continues the way we're expecting. Just take a look at the hotspot trend as well. It looks like it's continuing up as well, so not surprising. As we get close to a release, there'll be an upward spike in downloads, and we'll just continue to track that. Is there anything around these numbers someone wants to call out? Okay, then we'll jump back to our agenda. And the big item for this week, of course, is the 0.24 release. With the GA builds, I believe, having started yesterday.
They started this morning.
This morning, okay.
Yeah, JDK 8 and 11 should hopefully finish in the next hour or two. Simon's been running those.
Yeah, it seems that there's no Oracle download for 15.02, and Java 15 code hasn't been delivered to adopt OpenJDK, or to OpenJDK, sorry.
No, Oracle tend to be always a bit late pushing their changes. It seems to be a trend the last few quarters.
Yeah, it's not only their changes, they don't seem to have put a download for 15.02 on their website.
Oh, on their website either. Okay, interesting. Yes, that's new as well. Okay.
That's slightly surprising. Is there anything on the OpenJ9 side that would be blocking any of these releases? Any last minute issues that have come up in the build so far?
Nope, builds look good. There were a couple of failures, but they look like failures we've seen before.
Okay. Well, that's certainly good news for 8 and 11. I guess for 15, all we can do is monitor and see when the available. there anything else we need to discuss for the 0.24 release?
I don't think so.
Thank you to yourself and others who have been heavily involved in getting those release builds up and running and out the door. It's not do any releases without all the effort that you and others put into that. All right, 0.25. We are fast approaching the code split on January 31st. If we take a look at that milestone plan, we have 64 open items. Which is probably too many to go through in any detail on this particular call. Is there anything in this list that needs discussion? If you own one of these items, please do make sure that they're making progress and are going to either be closed out by the 31st or that we can make the correct case that they should be moved out of this release plan. And if that means you need reviews or whatever you may need, please chase reviewers or the like to get the support that you need to get your changes in for these items.
We should note that the nightly builds at OpenJ9 are no longer going to run Java 15. It's the last build for Java 15 is happening as part of the 0.24 release. So we're going to start up the Java 16 builds. I think everything's clean except for the OpenJDK tests. We'll see tonight. So we might be looking to exclude some of those failing OpenJDK tests so that we can get some clean builds.
You said the OpenJ9 tests are all looking clean at this point?
I haven't run them all. It's more like a spot check, so I think all the issues are resolved with the functionality and system tests, or at least things that aren't resolved are excluded.
Right. During the last call, we talked about the fact that the OpenJDK method handle, or switching to use the OpenJDK method handles, was not going to make this release, and that we needed to validate that the JIT work required to implement the adapters or that there was no JIT work required to implement the new adapters, JDK 16 using the J9 method handle implementation. Has that been followed up on? Don't see Jack or Babneet on the call. Toby, do you know by any chance?
So I know that Meat was looking at it this week. I'm not sure if he was able to come to any final conclusion there. My suspicion is that there isn't, but I'll wait for Babneet to verify that.
Yeah, we're very quickly running out of time, so we do need to get that answer this week if possible. Is there anything else on the 0.25 release that we need to discuss today? Then to our regular adopt update. Shelly, do you want to give us an update?
I guess there's not a whole lot of stuff there. I've just put the links to the builds that Simon and Andrew have already mentioned that are kicked off. And as I think was mentioned in last call, and apologies, I missed last week's community call, we are running the extended tests for a lot of the groups now. regularly each weekend, and they ran, or we attempted to run them this past weekend against the Milestone 2 build. So that will be the pattern, or is the pattern for now. I believe things are looking fairly good. We had gone to some effort to clear out to get close to green on those. I do see a couple of little blippy failures on A-Arch 64, but given that that's still EA and that we were not blocking on extended OpenJDK failures anyway, I don't think those will be at issue. I don't think I have other stuff here. I've left some of the last notes from last week. Do people have questions, specific questions?
The one question from last week was whether there was an open call covering some of the Adoptium transition work.
Transition plans, yeah. Right now there is not an open call scheduled. We have started obviously a transition document at the TSC. We're to bring some of that document on Monday to the Eclipse Foundation, the working group call that we've been running. The real working group kickoff is actually scheduled, I think, for first week of February, at which point I guess that work in progress transition document will probably be the first time it sees kind of a more general audience. Essentially, some of the very first things that have to happen are deciding which of the 200 repos that are at Adopt OpenJDK are going to be transitioned over. For people who have looked at the project proposals, that just finished public review. So that's Aquavit, that's Tamarin, and that's Tamarin Compliance. They already list some of our core repos in the set that is going to be transitioned over, but we do have to go through other repos. Include, for example, what you look at the start of each call here is you look at the dashboard, and that is in a repo over at Adopt OpenJDK, and when and where does that get moved as we transition. So yeah, I guess the very first public view of what work has to happen will be early February. I'll make sure that the date and the time and everything is shared. We should know. I'll have more details after Monday's meeting.
Thanks, Shelley.
Yeah.
The thinking at this point is the 0.25 release will still happen at Adopt OpenJDK?
Yeah, my request as of Monday was we're not dismantling anything until we prove that we can release Tamarin out of the new location. So things will remain in place at Adopt OpenJDK until we prove that, and in that proof point, it includes us running TCKs in the Tamarin Compliance project. We were given a window of 6 months time from the time we pick up TCK materials to the time we have to start closing down production out of Adopt OpenJDK. And I have asked that we do not go and fetch TCK materials until we have the pipeline set up on the private server. So it, in my opinion, won't happen before that, the 20.2 or the next release that's scheduled. There's no reasonable way that we could probably get that done. Eclipse Foundation has a more aggressive target in their heads, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. Thanks, Shelley. In terms of the infrastructure update, looks like we're still no updates here. So moving.
We did seem to get a new Jenkins version this morning. It looked to me like all the jobs finished and Jenkins restarted, and then It looks different, so I assume it's a new version. We lost all our AX machines, but hopefully they'll be back sometime later today.
In terms of the other items on our call list, the OpenJDK method handle support work, we don't have Babneet and we don't have Jack, so we can skip over this for this week. In terms of the CMake migration, do we have Devin?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. So it looks like we have completed the migration for JDK 11 at this point. Can the
With the exception of ZOS at the moment.
okay. Are
Um,
these at? Go ahead.
it was I getting real close. It was just this last week I got sidetracked. There is a potential interpreter per progression on AIX, which I was hunting down and have a PR open now. And it with my testing, it looks like it solves the issue.
Okay. And where is the ZOS then? Last week there were PRs that were coming this week. Have they come and been merged?
I did a double check, and it looks like everything I needed is actually merged. And I'm running a build now just off of unpatched master to make sure everything passes. And assuming it does, then matter of going and enabling that or opening any patches that I might have missed.
Seems like we should be prioritizing getting CMake going for newer versions like 16 over getting ZOS going.
I could do that too. Yeah, it's I'm open to either.
I don't even think ZOS is using the latest OpenJDK code, so if changes are required on that side, there could be some problems.
I don't think there was any actual real changes from the OpenJDK side. I'd have to double check, but for the most part, I've a lot of the stuff is not much of the stuff is in the OpenJDK code, with the exception of some of the workarounds we have to do for Windows things, deal with Sigwin and whatnot.
Wouldn't it make sense to get JDK 16 going, and then we can talk about turning on mixed builds for JDK 16?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah.
Kind of a question for Dan as well, and Toby.
I'm happy to proceed that way. The reason I've been asking about ZOS is purely from my understanding was it was very close to done. So I always like to get things that are very close to done complete possible. So
Yeah, just that we're going to miss our window for Java 16. And it doesn't seem like it would be too much work to get 16 up and going. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
As far as I know, it was really just the AIX stuff, and I don't know if Sharon has had a chance to look at the XL Clang stuff. I don't know if she's on the call.
I'm on the call. In the past week, I've been focusing on getting the remaining mixed related work done. The updates later on, but maybe Devin, you and I can coordinate off the call for
Yeah.
JDK and stuff.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
sounds like a good outcome to me. Is there anything else we should discuss around CMake? Marius, is there an update around the Kubernetes Helm and operator discussion? Marius, I see that you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. you may be having audio issues. It might work best to drop and join again. In the meantime, we'll skip past this and circle back if you're able to rejoin.
I did see that a CQ was created for the initial release of the Helm chart. It was for.
I'm on now. I have to log in again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, again.
Okay, thanks. So I was saying that the latest plan is to attach the binary Helm chart to the PR, the OpenJ9 utils repo, but not necessarily pushing it into the repo. And many thanks to you, Dan, to Peter, and to Adam for offering suggestions, reaching a conclusion for this Helm chart PR. I have filed for an Eclipse CQ, and once that is approved, I think the PR is ready to go, at least from my point of view.
That's great news.
Yeah, so once we do get that delivered, we can add something to the release page as well to mention it.
Yep.
Just have to figure out what text we want to put there.
Is there an associated blog post too?
No.
I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, we should probably work on it. Yeah. Good idea.
I can help broadcast it more fully once, if someone will. Yeah.
In terms of the next microJIT meeting, Scott, I see it's the next one listed here is the 14th. Is there another one coming up in a week?
Yeah, there's going to be another one in 2 weeks, so it's going to be the 28th. I just forgot to update that in the document there. I'll do that now.
I can update it.
Thank you.
Marius, for the CanOSP project, is this something?
So maybe we should take it up. So nothing has happened since last week. As a short update, there is yet another developer that expressed interest to continue to contribute. So 2 out of 4 now. But in terms of actual contribution, nothing has happened. Of course, the rate at which changes will go in is going to be much slower because the students are not directly involved in the project. They have classes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll remove it from the agenda and we can.
Yeah. I'll provide updates when something significant happens.
All right, perfect. Okay. That brings us to compressed and default combined builds. Sharon, you mentioned you had an update?
Yeah, so I have some fixes, PRs open for the fail and test on big Indian platforms. They've both been reviewed, so just waiting for the OMR changes to get built, and if that goes well merged, and then the OpenJ9 changes can also get merged after that, built and merged, and then I think it'd be good to kick off those nightly builds for the platforms that were failing to confirm that that's all good. And then the other item that we talked about last week was splitting verbose GC, and I've opened a PR for that as well as changes in the extensions repo to include the full version of the verbose library. That's just waiting for a review. So assuming all of those get reviewed and go in, the only other thing would be getting JDK 16 ready for CMake, and Mixrefs would be ready for JDK 16 at that point.
That's great to hear.
What was the thing about, was it XL Clang?
Yes.
How does that tie in?
That, I believe, is the, maybe Devin can confirm, but I think that's the remaining piece for getting things working for JDK 16 for AIX.
Yeah, because that's Otherwise, it's the same as the JDK 11 from as far as CMake is concerned. It's just that with 16 we're using XL Clang on eggs, and so we just need to get that other option set in and tweak what the compiler options are there.
Okay, so 16 uses a different compiler from 11.
Yeah.
And yep, those are the updates for me for that work.
Thanks, Sharon. Just checking. Don't see Lan on the call, but it looks like adding both modes to the test plan, somebody has marked that as complete. So
Yeah, we're actually running the where we were only running some of the tests in no option. Now the three modes that she's added are now being run. So both at Adopt and OpenJ9, I believe.
Yeah, so
is there anything?
it just appears that there's no change. And then when we have the mixed builds, it'll be running the same testing we're running now. But right now it's running in two separate builds, like one for compressed and one for XL. And then in the mixed build, it'll run in that build, both modes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else from a test perspective that we need for JDK 16 to be ready for this change?
I'm not aware of other items on the list, but I guess we're asking Sharon, we're asking Pete, we're asking people involved in.
You mentioned JCKs earlier.
Mm.
Hopefully they're also going to handle this kind of change. I don't know if
My understanding was there wasn't, we're still waiting on materials
okay.
to be available from the partner site.
I think we have JCK 16 material running internally. We don't have
I think
17.
we'll leave that to an IBM specific call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other business that we want to discuss today?
Hey Dan, this is Nate. I joined the meeting late. Apologies for that. Did I miss any questions regarding OpenJDK method handles?
Yeah, the whole first half, Neat, we were just talking about it. No, sorry.
The only real question was around whether there was JIT support required for implementing the adapters on the OpenJ9 method handle implementation.
No, I think I just opened a PR for the adapter method and it doesn't need JIT support.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear.
Yep.
If there are any of the there are any issues related to the method handle change still in the 0.25 plan, if you could move those out, that would be good. Flag which ones
Yeah,
no
I
longer
did a
apply
pass
there.
this week, and all the ones that I was aware of have been moved to 0.26.
I will also make a pass and see if we missed any.
Great, thank you. Is there any other business that we need to discuss today?
I'll just mention to Babneet, there's a few OpenJDK tests related to method handles that are failing. I know he was planning to exclude some, but we're going to start running the JDK 16 testing nightly, and we'll want to get those OpenJDK tests into a green state.
And do we expect to pass all the JDK tests, or so I was told to exclude some, so I'm guessing there's no expectation to pass all of them.
No, they don't need to pass. They just need to either pass or be excluded.
So we can run green.
Understood.
I put the issue there, 11135. There are 3 or 4 method handle.
I'm hoping that the list that you're planning to exclude are going to be the remainder of the ones that are failing. And
Yes.
if not, we'll have to deal with anything that's left over so we can get to a green state.
Understood. I will exclude the one that we discussed yesterday by the end of today.
Great, thanks. I think there's more than one that's failing, so I could
think-
find the list and.
Yep. Thank you.
Is there anything else? Then thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again next week. Talk to you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.